at the end of the day, I guess people are going to think what they're going to think. You can present them with all the facts and all the data and all the studies and all the whatever you would like. Some people are just not ready to hear it yet. And I learned this tactic from Ben Shapiro, who always says, he's like, never argue with people, always ask questions.
Listening to Inside Acting, a podcast dedicated to demystifying the inner and outer game of success in the entertainment industry. I'm AJ Meyer.
And I'm Trevor Algott, and coming up in episode 278 today, part 2 of my chat with Ana Carolina Valverde and Brian Ruppenkamp, otherwise known as those annoying vegans. And in part 2 today, we dig into the nitty-gritty of building a platform, including what software and gear to use, how to plan your production schedule and workflow, how to strategically position your work to complement what's already out there, how to generate ideas and inspiration for new content, how to deal with internet trolls and the inevitable moments of burnout, and why, if all of that sounds completely overwhelming to you, the most important thing is just getting started. That and more coming up in episode 278.
Here's a great way to master the studio and performance techniques you need to work on camera and do better self-tapes. It's called Camera Ready You, and it's been created by VO2GoGo's David H. Lawrence XVII. Now, you all know he's a seasoned TV and film actor, and will share all the knowledge he's gained working on camera in this class. Auditioning and working on camera can be deceptively hard, but David's put together a special report called The Top 5 Mistakes People Make on Camera and How to Fix Them. And it's absolutely free. And to get it, just text "on camera," all one word, to 44222 on any smartphone or messaging device. Now, you've probably got unlimited text messaging on your phone, but standard messaging rates may apply. What will you learn? Well, things like how to set up your studio, your lights, your camera, your mic, how to self-tape on-camera auditions, how to master business presentations, video podcasts, online instructions/lessons, marketing videos, walking the red carpet, and more. You'll learn how to shine on camera. Don't know which camera to use? Don't know which lavalier or boom mic to buy? Don't know what to do with your hands or your eyes? No worries. Camera Ready You will cover all of that. Become a better on-camera actor and auditioner with Camera Ready You. Again, get that free Top 5 Mistakes People Make on Camera and How to Fix Them report, and get on the list. On your smartphone, text "on camera" to 44222. That's all one word, "on camera" to 44222, and get ready for Camera Ready You.
Hi, how you doing, AJ?
Hey, buddy. Hello. Yeah, I guess we should dive into the most recent fun.
Yeah, we had a good time at the Gospel According to First Squad reading the other night, and it was so cool to have a packed house. First off, I mean, it wasn't a very big room, you know, it was only like maybe 40 or 50 seats that were available, but they were all filled, and a lot of love, man, a lot of podcast love, a lot of personal family and friends love. My younger brother was there. We had the whole IAP team there, except for Grace, who's out of town and couldn't make it, but she sent us a really sweet text message, you know, wishing us lots of broken legs and things like that.
She's so mean.
It was really cool, man. And I gotta say, AJ, if I had forgotten what a fantastic freaking actor you are, I was reminded again. I told you during the intermission, but that one scene that you have with the actor John Redding, who plays Sergeant Hal Taylor in the play, that scene is just fucking Oscar worthy, man. You guys have got to get that on tape.
Thanks, man.
That role is yours and always will be, as far as I'm concerned. And do you have any plans, or is there any talk or any will to get that on tape?
Maybe. I mean, first of all, it means so much coming from you. You have no idea. You know, I like I mentioned to you last night, that is something we've actually discussed is the possibility of shooting that. I guess it would be a good idea to kind of get Tom Burmester, the writer, get his sort of blessing. to do that. But yeah, it'd be great. It'd be really easy to shoot because it's one location. You could shoot it inside a tent. You wouldn't want to, because that would be challenging. But it's sort of, it's in a barracks, in the middle of Afghanistan, so it would not be expensive, that's for sure. And we're already off book for the most part.
Yeah, you're off book, and you guys know the beat. I mean, you could knock that thing out fairly quickly, and I imagine you'd want to pare it down a little bit. It is about I don't know, it's got to be like 15 pages as it is. So depending on what you want to use it for. So often as actors, we have stuff like this just sitting right under our noses, and we like wander around looking for work and looking for real material and stuff. And it's like we have this stuff available to us, and we know the people that can help us make it happen. So it's just a matter of putting things in motion. And I was just reminded last night and yesterday afternoon when we rehearsed it, I was just like, I'm not gonna allow this scene to just fade off into the ethers of theater history. Like, you guys have to document this somehow. It's too good. And talk about, creating really clear archetypes for yourself to market yourself. I mean, we've talked about this so many times, you are the ethnically ambiguous, guy. And you play that role so well. For those who don't know, the character is a character named Muhammad, and he's an Iraqi interpreter. And AJ's got the accent down, he's got the pashto down, he's got the look down, especially right now with your hair and your beard.
Yeah, I'm inspired. See if we can put those wheels in motion. I'll reach out to John, see if he's interested.
Awesome.
I'm sure he will be.
So we have a couple announcements to share. Just two membership highlights. Number one, of course, the Prosperous Heart Creative Cluster has officially kicked off inside the membership. So if you're listening to this and you're like, wait, what's he talking about? The Prosperous Heart is a book by Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way, and it's essentially the same idea. It's 12 weeks, it's a self-guided course, but it's all specifically built and sort of themed around abundance, money, and particularly the emotional and spiritual relationship we have to it as creatives. And I'm learning the older I get that scarcity and feeling tight around money and feeling lack is by far and large the most common experience. I would say probably 98, 99% of the human population experiences that every single day. And it just doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. I mean, we have plenty of examples of people who it isn't like that for. And it's not because they just have some special genetic gift. It's because they just relate to it differently. And that's what this book is all about. And inside the membership, we're already having some interesting conversations just around the first week. I did the first week's reading today, actually, and did the exercises. And she recommends you go for a 20-minute walk, not listening to podcasts or anything, just be in the world, go out for a walk, and just sort of turn over some of these ideas and discoveries in your head. And I went and did that. I went for a barefoot walk in the park, and man, I was like, I had a few revelations around money, and some old stories that were sort of tied to what money means to me emotionally. And a big one was not having faith in the future. Not having faith that in the future I will be able to provide for myself, or that the universe, or God, whatever you want to call it, will provide for me. And it's funny because it's always worked out in the past. So I have zero evidence for it not working out. And yet I live my life as if I will never make another penny. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. I mean, this is a sensitive subject for me, so I'm really excited to be a part of this group and digging into this. And my word of the year of 2017 is vulnerable, so I'm just going to let it all hang out when it comes to this stuff inside the membership with the Prosperous Heart. So I hope that if you're listening to this and any of this piques any sort of interest in you, you'll join us inside the membership, because it's a really low pressure but valuable way to engage with this content. And I promise you, there is no judgment, there's no advice, unsolicited advice giving, there's none of that stuff. That was a very long description of what we got going on, but stoked about that. Also inside the membership, we have a few members posting, little things here and there, little opportunities that pop up. And longtime listener and supporter Patrick McCarthy, if you guys know him, you know what a freaking stud this guy is. He's a big fan of I'm blanking on the acting teacher's name, but he wrote a book and runs a workshop called The Real Life Actor. And there's a workshop that's coming to LA. It's apparently quite excellent, quite awesome. I wouldn't expect anything else from such a glowing review from Patrick. But inside the membership, Patrick has posted more information on that. It's happening June 3rd and 4th. It's $100 off. He's posted a link or information on how to get $100 off, and all that's in the post. So some fun things happening inside the membership. Join us. Come on down.
The Prosperous Heart, just FYI, I don't think you mentioned this, Trev, is we're breaking it down each chapter into individual threads, so it makes it easier to jump into. So if you don't feel if you're listening to this in a few weeks, for instance, don't feel like you can't, jump in because the ship has sailed.
Yeah. With The Artist's Way, it was really cool, but it was just this monstrous thread. And after 4 or 5 weeks, it was just like there were like hundreds of posts that were like several hundred words apiece. And it just felt like, to me, well, what if I wanted to jump into chapter 4 or week 4? So now we're breaking it up by week. So no matter where you are, you can jump in, see what people are talking about, see what discoveries people are having, post your own stuff. And the cool thing about the way the membership works is once you post something new in that thread, it gets highlighted in the new posts section. There's a link at the top that says new posts. You can click on that and it'll show you all the updates that have posted since you were last in the membership. So it makes it really easy to instantly connect to what's new. Let's talk about this question that we got from a listener named Derek. This is something we have never, ever talked about on the podcast before in 278 episodes. Derek writes in and says, I'm a middle-aged actor, mid-40s, on the autism spectrum. Acting is all about relationships on screen and off, and about feeling true emotions in a scene, and both of these things, both building relationships on screen and off and working with emotions, are extremely difficult for me, Derek says. And he feels that lacking these may hold him back as an actor. So he says, while I have gotten somewhat adept at playing emotions, true, honest emotions still elude me. Do you have any advice for someone like myself? Do you know of other actors on the spectrum and how they have overcome this? This is a tricky one because I know admittedly little about autism. I did a little bit of research before we started rolling here, and I just wanted to share the official medical definition that I found on Google, just so everybody listening and everybody is just clear on what the official definition of this is. So autism is defined by Google or the internet as a mental condition present from early childhood characterized by difficulty in communicating and forming relationships with other people and in using language and abstract concepts. I've worked with and known autistic children. When I used to teach swim lessons, there were a handful of children that I taught that were on the autism spectrum, and I could definitely see how it would be a major obstacle to emotional work, knowledge work in the entertainment industry. I hesitate to offer any sort of advice because I just don't know, but I did find a website called actorsforautism.org, which is essentially an organization that is dedicated to opening doors of opportunity and creating possibilities for actors on the autistic spectrum. And it turns out that there's actually a lot of autistic actors, a lot of artistic, just creative people throughout history, including Daryl Hannah, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, James Durbin, Tim Burton, Andy Warhol, Dan Harmon, Lewis Carroll. There's the list goes on. So Derek, you're not alone. You're actually in good company. It looks like there's some great resources out there that could offer guidance. And I just want to thank you for your vulnerability and for sharing this. That's a tough thing to kind of, grapple with, especially publicly.
One of the things that I found was there was this article in Scientific America about how acting classes may help children with autism. And it kind of makes sense. If the issue is with showing emotion, then having an acting class where it's sort of supporting you in ways of drawing that emotion out, especially when it's, genuine and authentic and coming from a, acting as autobiography type place, It makes sense. So I would say, Derek, I would find like a acting teacher maybe who like knows this area of expertise, who has expertise in this area. That would probably be a boon for you and anyone else, in your situation. You could obviously be in a class with just, actors who are not on the spectrum, but to have someone's support in the very thing that you're trying to learn more about and get better at, I think would be tremendous. And so maybe some of these resources that Trevor was pointing out, for instance, might support you in leading you to who that person might be. So of course it might be more difficult if you're not in like a Los Angeles or New York, but you never know, so I just think it would be really interesting to try and maybe talk to some other people in the autism community and try to figure out if there's someone that's well known or even not well known that might be able to support you in that specific area. Because how great would it be, if you had somebody who had experience here, who understood the diagnosis, and who also understood, acting and what it means to be an actor and play an objective and all of that stuff to support you, Derek, in, hitting all of the technique things and also taking your personal journey to the next level.
Yeah. I'm looking at this actorsforautism.org website, and they've got programs around developing social skills, around making films, around customizing your approach for finding employment, designing video games, micro enterprise development, visual effects. It looks like it's a pretty comprehensive service, and I'm sure that if you reached out to them, someone there would know somebody who would know somebody who would know somebody who could fill a role like AJ was describing there, that of an acting coach who would be well versed in how to navigate the very unique waters of an actor on the autism spectrum. So again, thanks for the question, Derek. All right, guys. Well, this is part 2 of my chat with Ana Carolina Valverde and Brian Ruppenkamp, those annoying vegans. And again, this is all about building a platform in I'm doing air quotes, post-acting life, because neither of them are done with acting. They're just shifting their focus into something they feel they have a little more creative control around, and they feel that makes a difference in the world, and they're finding a lot of fulfillment and satisfaction and having a lot of fun doing it, and even starting to get a little bit of reputation and bringing a little bit of income through merchandising and partnership opportunities. So pretty cool, man. They've only been at it for like a year, and in part 2 we talk about that year. So enjoy, and we'll catch you on the other side. Tools and all the skill sets available to you as performers, as musicians. I know, Brian, you work for, I want to say, Guitar Center during the day?
Yes, I do. I'm at their corporate office.
Cool.
I'm a corporate shill.
But you've got, the audio production world, I guess is what I'm getting after. And Ana, you as well, as a voiceover artist. And there's lots and lots of people on YouTube with really successful vegan channels. And the thing that stops me a lot of times when I have these ideas, my excuse is, well, there's so many people already doing it better than I ever could. Why would I try? Did that come up for you?
No, we didn't really think, because every single person out there, every single person has a unique take, a unique life experience, a unique journey. You take someone like our friend Mike from Mike the Vegan. He focuses purely on science and research. He's very methodical about that. You have Happy Healthy Vegans, Angie and Ryan, who are wonderful. They have like a music background, and they're really like sort of that chill.
Yeah, it's
hip
very laid
vibe.
back
It's very
and casual.
Yeah, they're fun to watch. Bonnie Rebecca in Australia, who's like super ditzy and really fun, and she just goes out and swims in the ocean. And everybody's different, and every single person can bring something unique and different to it, even if it's just talking about your experiences. No one has had your experience.
Did you look at some of these channels and say, you know what, there's a gap in this world that we could fill? Or was it more like, we just want to be a part of the solution?
We definitely want to be a part of the solution, and we want to spread the word, and we want to educate and inform and encourage and inspire and do all these wondrous things to, as Bill Nye says, change the world. I mean, if there is anything that might separate us a little bit, it's that we do the recipes and we sort of dive deeper into the psychological debates surrounding usually channels are one or the other. We wanted to have a channel that kids could watch and make these recipes at home and learn things and be informed, and we wanted to stay positive and stay encouraging. And as Anna said, like these, we're sort of maybe inadvertently we're building this catalog of all these recipes that we do on nearly every single video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the argument of like, well, you can't eat anything. It's like, well, we made all this stuff.
Yeah.
Wrong.
We still have friends who are like, well, can you guys bring the vegan thing? Because we don't know what to make.
We don't know what to make.
There's this channel that we built like a year ago where every single week, every weekend,
I can see it I could see the evolution in my head. Cookbook is next, and then you're going to have a food delivery service. And
after the t-shirts, I suppose.
We actually did start selling our very first food product at the last two events that we tabled at.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that on your videos. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about that?
The product is our Nutella.
No being the key word. Nutella for no dairy and no palm oil.
Yeah.
Love it.
And we made some samples at our first event that we tabled, and everyone kept asking us where we could buy it.
And we were like, oh, well.
And we didn't have it for sale at the time. It was just like, well, we'll just bring this as a sample to show people, what you can make as a vegan. And people were like, I want to buy this. Where can I buy this? I need to buy this. And so we were like, all right, we listened.
2 weeks later, we had jars and labels, and we made 20 jars, and we sold out in the first 2 hours. So.
Wow. That's awesome. Do you guys have an online store or plans for an online store?
We do.
We just opened it today, actually.
Did?
Funny enough. Yeah, because I was having issues with PayPal, and I'm like, I'm very familiar with PayPal, and for some reason I was having trouble oh my goodness. Sorry, that was Aria Rose getting into the cabinet. We just connected it. We just opened it today. We just have 3 shirts on there so far. Yeah. But we have many ideas.
Cool.
We're not an online food retailer at this point, so for our Nutella, you'll have to catch us at the live events that we go to.
Awesome. And just so people can check it out, do you have a website up where people can go to check out the shirts and anything else that's coming down the pipe?
The website is Store Envy. So the official address would be thoseannoyingvegans.storeenvy.com. And you can find our shirts there.
So why the name Those Annoying Vegans? Is there a story behind that, or was it just like this is an inside joke among vegans?
I think it was sort of an attempt to cut critics off at the pass, to go ahead and label us as annoying ourselves. All of these ethics issues and these moral issues, these environmental issues, like, oh my gosh, it's so annoying, right? That's the number one thing that people say about vegans is that we're annoying. So we thought, well, we'll just go ahead and call ourselves that. Mm-hmm. And then
just openly admit it up front.
Yeah, we will be positive and inspiring and encouraging and informative as we possibly can. And then in those few moments where maybe you find us annoying, can't say we anything. Didn't warn you.
Can't blame us. I love that. That's awesome. So when you guys started this, you went out and said you bought all the gear. So can you give us a quick rundown of what you think an ideal setup would be for somebody looking to create a YouTube platform for themselves?
I've had and granted, it's not like the best camera. So many more people now have a better camera than I do. Mm-hmm. So we still record on my Canon T2i, the lens it came with. We got 3 lights, 3 standing lights.
There are 3 600-watt daylight bulbs
on Amazon.
Yeah, with umbrella, like white umbrella diffusers. And
the one that goes on top of the camera. What do you call that one?
that's like then we have a LED camera light that's dimmable.
We got lav mics. And is that it?
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's it.
And you edit everything yourselves on an iMac, I think, right? Running, it's got to be Final Cut or...
Yeah, we use Final Cut. Did we use Final Cut at first? Or were we using... Okay.
I mean, I tried... I had my movie review channel first, and I tried using iMovie.
No.
And it was just not...
Yeah.
Because we bought a green screen, too. But keying out things in iMovie just was incredibly frustrating. It just came down to like with, Adobe or Final Cut, basically. But Adobe charges monthly, and Final Cut, you can buy it for one price. So... Yeah,
and Final Cut, I know at first it looks very intimidating, but the learning curve is not really that bad. I think I learned from watching you, and that took about a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's like anything else.
Muscle memory.
How do I edit? Start editing. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Google
start
that
pressing
shit.
buttons.
How do I light? Lighting, editing. We used to use a condenser mic on a stand that was out of frame, and then it was like, well, it would sound way better if we both had lavaliers, and so we did that. It's an evolution. Like, you don't have to have every single piece of professional gear in order to get started.
Our camera right now, the rig we use right now to shoot our over the top recipe, it's like taped up. It's like this.
It's a boom mic stand that we just jerry rigged it with gaff tape and put a camera holder. I think as long as you have an idea, if you have a vision, if you have something that you want to get out to the world, especially on YouTube, obviously the better your videos look and sound. Actually, I think sound might be more important than video, because people listen. Yeah. And if your audio is muffled or unclear or echoey, that can be hard to sit through. But honestly, if your content's good, if your vision is good, if you have a solid, like, this is what I want to do.
And even if you don't, just put out, like, we went to Veg Fest this past weekend, and they had the YouTuber panel, and they had a lot of great advice. I think it was Miss Supreme Banana who said, just put it out there. Just record. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time. Because we tend to get into this. I don't know if you know who, Dallas Travers. She has a very memorable sort of piece of advice. It's like, we're always preparing to get ready to begin, or something like that. And it's like this sort of vacuum we get sucked into of like, I'll do it tomorrow. No, I'll figure it out. Maybe next week, So just sit down and do it. 1 minute. Instagram, do an Instagram video on Instagram. They can only support 1 minute long videos. Just say anything.
Yeah. If you have an iPhone, if you have a MacBook, if you have a whatever camera, whatever mic, just put it out there. And as Anna said, like, you sort of find your way, the more you do it. We have our favorite YouTubers and inspirations, and, just like I had my movie reviewer inspirations, and we both have our acting inspirations and our music inspirations. Like with anything else, hey man, I want to play guitar because I want to, I want to be like Jimmy Page. It's like, well, you're going to find your sound. You might start with this inspiration, but you will find your way.
Yeah, use your background. Anything, like I went to school for journalism. I didn't end up necessarily pursuing journalism per se, but I still love researching, and that really comes in handy when we're composing these videos.
And how many videos do you guys have now? It's got to be several dozen.
Oh,
it's definitely over 50.
60
videos.
Total.
60 and counting. It's about once a week you put a video out, right?
Every single week. I think the only break we've taken was over the holidays in December when we went to see our families, and still we recorded when we were in West Virginia.
Still recorded and edited our gingerbread cookie recipe, if you'll recall. We lost the audio on that one, so that one has the Canon T2i camera mic audio.
Yeah. I love the variety that you guys put into your videos, too. I really enjoyed the one where you took $30 and went to the farmer's market to sort of combat the idea that eating vegan is really, really expensive. And you guys got this bounty of food. And then I was kind of, part of my brain was like trying to see it from the lens of an objector, and I was kind of like, okay, whatever. But like, how calorie dense are those foods and thing? And then you went to fast food places and you were like, look at this, $9 at KFC for 1,000 calories or whatever it was. And then you went back and you looked at your stuff and you're like, we stretched this food out for like a week just by making all these various things. And
granted, that's at the farmer's market. We could do a grocery store haul for way more.
Yeah, we want to do that
so
one.
much more at the grocery store.
Yeah. So how much time would you say you invest in creating and producing content each week at this point?
Ooh, I
think we have one evening off.
Yeah, because what happens is we generally shoot on Saturdays. Mm-hmm. So we go to CrossFit. Yes, we're vegan CrossFitters.
We are.
All right.
Not as intense as others. We just go once a week, and then we come home, get everything ready, we shoot. And then we start editing Monday night, generally, either Sunday or Monday night.
Monday day.
Yeah, and we take turns. Like either Brian will take his computer to work and give it the first go around, or I will keep it at home and do the first go around. We switch off depending on our work schedules. And we always, I think once or twice maybe we've fallen asleep editing and had to put it off till Thursday morning, but we always publish on Wednesday mornings.
I mean, the recipe, that might take an hour, 2 hours to shoot. Our intro, we usually get about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of footage on that. And then the editing is, I don't know, depending, like it keeps getting longer now because we want to share so much more and we want to provide sources and facts and information and science. And so, we spend 2 days editing, probably Monday, Tuesday, and then the video goes up Wednesday on average.
Yeah, I like that too a lot, that you guys are spending more and more time citing sources. I mean, it's one thing to sort of say your piece about what you believe, but I like that you are, getting screen grabs and things of various studies and highlighting those portions. A lot like Dr. Greger does and like Mike the Vegan does. And so when you started out, I imagine there wasn't much talk about like a production schedule or process or workflow. But as it's progressed, have you guys, I mean, now you're at 60 videos. It must be like you barely need to even say a word to each other now to know what needs to happen.
Yep.
So what is like you said, you usually shoot on Saturdays. You spend the Monday and Tuesday editing. What does the process in a nutshell look like when you're planning a video through to when you hit the publish button?
It's automatic now. Like you said, I think it naturally fell into this routine where we know who gets to do what based on, who has more work on a particular week.
At first it was like, hey, wouldn't that be cool? Vegan cheeseburger. That'd be pretty sweet. Let's make that. Or, hey, vegan ribs. What? Let's do that. And then as we became a little bit more of a informative channel, our last couple of videos have been like, okay, what's something that people think they need from animals? Okay, omega-3. How about that? All right, people eat, they eat the fish oil capsules because they think they need omega-3s. So how about we do a recipe that is high in omegas, but it's vegan. And so we did our vegan, fish and chips, for example. Or then we were like, let's tackle B12 and we'll make some meatballs because people think you can only get B12 from meat. Okay, so we'll do that. And so we've, tried to structure the recipe ideas around a topic that we want to discuss. And
you have those planned out pretty far in advance, or is it just sort of, shooting from the hip week to week?
We sort of, we receive a lot of inspiration from our viewers. We get a lot of suggestions. I think one of the recent ones was strawberry shortcake. So now we're going to have to figure out how to make that. It's going to be amazing. Yeah. We always, there's just endless possibilities. I still have this idea of tiramisu. What was the other one we were thinking? There's now that we've had a few field trips. People like our field trips. And I'm thinking, it'd be fun to do a video where we ask our viewers questions, or, we're always coming up with little ideas depending on what inspires us. Like I said before, we also watch other YouTubers and get inspiration from them. And, or the news. The news is great inspiration. The recent study that was released about dairy. Oh my God.
Dairy-free diets are dangerous.
Dairy-free diets are dangerous.
Sponsored by the American Dairy Association.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. There's so much that I want to say right now that I'm just not going to. I can imagine that you guys deal with a good amount of criticism, pushback, objections. My study is better than your study, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, and we sort of alluded to this earlier. A lot of this comes from people who, trolls, frankly, who want to pick a fight. Some people are genuinely informed and curious and genuinely want to hear your take and present an alternative viewpoint. And that's great, but that's, in my experience, not the majority of people. Most people just want to be right. I'm curious what it's like as your platform is growing now, and I want to talk about that in just a moment, but how do you field those kinds of things without A, burning out, and B, just wanting to give them a verbal smackdown?
Well, I do feel frustrated at times, but what I always find is more important is getting the message out there in a positive and encouraging way. There is a lot of pushback, as many social justice movements have pushback, because they are generally controversial to the tradition, the norm, the established cultural ways that we have gotten used to over the years. We always allude to the civil rights movement or gay rights or women's right to vote. There was a time where people wouldn't have thought that was ever going to happen. And this is one of those movements, and it's getting bigger and bigger every day. I mean, for every person who goes vegan, they probably inspire at least one other person to go vegan. So it's growing, and we try to just take the criticism as there is a psychology behind it. There is a reason why people get defensive, and I think Brian has a really good way of explaining that.
Like me personally, I didn't want to feel like I was part of an industry that did these atrocious things. You don't want to feel like you support that. And so, like we said earlier, you try to distance yourself from it. And there's going to be pushback, because it's easy to say that, you agree with something, when you don't actively participate it. But eating animal products is just something that everybody, it's very cultural. It's just something that everybody grows up on. Everybody's used to it. Everyone's desensitized to it. And so you've been doing this for X amount of years, your whole life. You don't want to feel like you're a bad person, because you aren't. I mean, chances are most people wouldn't do the things to animals that they do to them in factory farms.
Yeah, like the vegan bros always say, you're already vegan at heart.
Yeah, your diet's just the last 10%. So just align that with with what you feel.
Yeah.
That's why people don't want to watch the slaughterhouse footage.
Yeah, and we've even gotten, it was so funny because yesterday I was at the ranch volunteering, and we got takeout from I don't know, it's like Thai, or I think it was Indian or Thai. And the delivery guy came in the door and he was like, "Oh, is this like a rescue or something?" And we're like, yeah. And the founder who was with us, Lola Devon, she was like, "You don't eat bacon, do you?" Like, just out of, you know how she is. She's lovely. And she, in her very gentlest voice, she was like, "You don't eat bacon, do you?" And he was like, "Oh, no, I hate bacon, but I like pork." And we were like, and I was like, you got to meet Thomas and Winston. And I started going on about the pigs and the pig vigils. And he was like, I told him about the pig vigil, and he said something really interesting. He's like, "Oh, no. I mean, I don't like that stuff. I don't want to see that. But I mean, I just like pork."
Yeah.
So it's a disconnect. That's another thing people forget. We used to eat meat.
We did.
Well, I was 25 when I stopped eating meat. Yeah. I would eat cow tongue as a child in Costa Rica. That was a very common thing, unfortunately. And I would go pet a cow. So there was a very, very deeply ingrained disconnect there with what we put on our plates and the animals that we tend to love when we see them. We're awed. We're like, "Oh my gosh, look, it's a cow, it's a horse. Oh, look at the pig run. It's so cute,"
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as Gary Yourofsky said, like, it's this decades long attempt to convince us that eating animal products is natural and it's normal and it's necessary. Mm-hmm. And the truth is it's neither of those three things.
I'm glad you brought him up because I wanted to ask you guys about him and kind of piggyback on what I've heard recently, which is that he recently retired from animal activism.
Yeah.
And
he got burnt out.
Yeah, and I was and still am very much a champion for climate action and really just aggressively, fighting for policy to curb carbon emissions and methane emissions and really build an infrastructure that's going to, make our planet habitable in 25, 50 years.
Right.
Be nice.
But I had to really step away from it because there was so much bad news and so much inertia and so much resistance, and it just was like I was becoming a miserable person. And I can only imagine that, Gary Yourofsky, who is arguably one of the most influential people in the world for the vegan movement.
For veganism,
I know. I think he's a brilliant mind. Just the word genius, I think, applies in every way to him. But to hear that he's retiring from being this global leader in the fight for animal rights because he's burned out. Do you guys deal with this sometimes? Do you sometimes look at the landscape and just see like, God, we're just a drop in the ocean? I know you said earlier, it's a fast growing movement, but there's just still so much work to be done. And as we speak, things that are happening in slaughterhouses all over the world are worse than our worst nightmares.
Oh, absolutely. No, ask Brian. I have had my breakdowns. I have just had these horrible days of just being sad. And I know, like, I don't want that to be a turnoff from this, because this journey is honestly the most meaningful, the most meaningful thing that I've ever done in my life. And I love it despite those days. I think what we need to focus on, because for every piece of bad news, there is always 2 or 3 pieces of good news. Every time I hear something like, in Spain, there was a lady who got arrested for literally starving her 250 goats to death at this farm, and they had all this footage, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going through people's heads? And that goes, that's a natural reaction. But then you look up other stuff, and like, for example, they just passed a law in Los Angeles, circuses are banned.
Yes.
So no animals for entertainment, no more private parties, and no more tigers on leashes in Los Angeles County. That is huge. And it is very important to focus on those things. Gary Yourofsky, I think, to tell you the truth, I don't know if it's intuition, I think he just needs a break. We all do. Yeah. We all do need a break at times.
He doesn't mince words either. He goes into the thick of it and dukes it out. He says some arguably pretty harsh things to people. And so I can only imagine the type of responses and backlash and, just aggression, controversy that he probably has to deal with is more than we could possibly imagine. There is, we felt it like there is a chance, or not a chance, but there is that sense of getting burned out, because at the end of the day, I guess people are going to think what they're going to think. You can present them with all the facts and all the data and all the studies and all the whatever you would like. Some people are just not ready to hear it yet. Some people are not ready to open their mind to the idea. And I learned this tactic from Ben Shapiro, who always says, he's like, never argue with people, always ask questions.
Yes.
So it does no good to just have a screaming match back and forth, whether it's on the internet or whether it's in person. But ask questions. Ask questions of the other person. Why do you think that we need to eat meat or cheese or dairy? Or why do you think it's okay to do this? Or what do you think is the difference between a pig and a dog? Like those types of questions. Because once you get people thinking, I think then that primes their mind to sort of open up a little bit.
I love that. It's just holding up a mirror, essentially, with no judgment. It's not about like, I am showing you how shameful you are. It's more like just tell me more about what you see here.
You will find, I mean, there are those kinds of vegans out there. There are, it's a spectrum. You have your vegans who just eat their vegan meal quietly at the gathering. Mm-hmm. They go to a barbecue and they just have their Brussels sprouts quietly in the corner and don't say anything about it. And if they get asked why aren't you eating the hot dog? Oh, I kind of just feel like veggies today. There's that. There are those kinds of vegans, and they're the vegans who are, if you're not protesting, you're not doing enough. You're not vegan enough. You're not doing this,
You're not vegan. You're plant-based at that point. Yeah. That's what we've heard. We've heard that we're just plant-based. Vegan's not a diet, man. It's a lifestyle. And we understand that. We definitely understand that.
And we support everybody. I mean, it's a community. Everybody makes this community work. Like I've said before, we have our teachers, we have our doctors, we have our artists, the people who make these T-shirts and the jewelry and the posters. You have spokespeople, you have activists, you have protesters, the people who can go to the pig vigils. I am still working my way towards that because that to me feels it's very hard to think about, but I think it's something I will eventually need to do because it is important to get the message out there. But yeah, there's just a spectrum of people.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Bookends. This is AJ. I wasn't present for this interview, so I'm only on this part. I'm over here on the Bookends part.
And we missed you, man. It was just there was so much veggie love, and we had nobody to represent the alternative perspective.
It's funny because my pick of the week is not vegan. I felt terrible. I was like, oh god.
I was gonna say you got some balls, man, picking this as your pick of the week on an interview with those annoying vegans. But let's let it fly, man. What is your pick of the week?
So it's just a way to sort of help people out who are into. I made Bulletproof my pick of the week months ago, and it's not you could have this if you're a vegetarian, I guess. It's called Fat Fuel Coffee, and it's basically just individually wrapped powdered versions of what you would get at Bulletproof or from Bulletproof. And the reason I'm picking it is because not only have we been drinking it here, but I'm probably gonna take some on our trip, which we haven't even talked about. So it gives me an excuse to talk about the fact that I am taking Trevor to his first ever Yosemite experience. I'm taking him to Yosemite National Park. Actually, the day after this is published is when we're leaving.
Oh man, I'm so stoked. So stoked. I have been camping, but I don't go camping, if that makes sense. So I'm totally letting you take the lead on this, AJ, but I'm so excited because I find being out in nature more and more, it's just like incredibleness.
When I'm there, it's like my favorite place on earth. And when I'm there, I just feel so tapped in. Yeah. Like I am connected to some otherworldly or maybe this worldly, right? This earth, just some spiritual pipeline. Yeah. It's the best way I can describe it. So I'm so excited for you to experience that too.
I'm curious, so you're an advocate of putting butter in your coffee. What do you notice when you drink Fat Fuel coffee?
Well, so there's two main aspects of the whole Bulletproof thing. The one that's probably more important than the butter is the actual storage of the beans, and two is the butter. So I'll go in that order. So the thing that people don't really realize when it comes to just like everyday coffee that you're getting at Starbucks or out of a Folgers can or whatever is that the beans, whether they're whole or ground, are usually not properly stored. So you can even buy organically sourced coffee beans and grind them yourself, and they still may have traces of, get this, mold. So a lot of times when you are experiencing the jitters from coffee, if you felt, man, I didn't drink enough coffee to have the jitters, because caffeine can give you the jitters if you drink too much, granted. But if you have the jitters and you feel like, man, I didn't drink a lot of coffee, it's probably because you have some crazy chemical reaction happening in your body, because there are like molds and other like bacteria and stuff that like grows on the coffee beans if they're not properly stored. And so anything that claims to sort of be bulletproof starts with the proper storage of the beans. That's number one. And what the butter does, the best explanation I was given, because it's the easiest for my tiny brain to understand, is that it sort of wraps grounds themselves or the caffeine molecules in like a layer of fat and releases them over a longer, steadier period of time, so that you don't have a crash the way you would with coffee after drinking a cup, and then like 2-3 hours later you have a big crash. It's a much more sustained caffeine high that lasts longer and sort of fades out slower.
That's interesting. I've never experienced a caffeine crash ever. I didn't know that was a thing.
Do you drink a lot of coffee? I thought you weren't a big coffee drinker until you started doing the fasting. I
mean, I'm not a big coffee drinker, but I have a cup, maybe two, most days a week. I mean, I don't drink past I don't drink after I've started eating, because that's a way to build up tolerance for caffeine, as if you have it competing for digestion and resources. But yeah, I've never experienced a crash.
You're also a scientific, like you need to be studied for science because of your whole family, like the whole Algat clan, like just came out of the womb with muscles, and needs to be studied for science so that we can all benefit from your genetics. Maybe your metabolism has something to do with it as well. But also the other thing too, it has MTC oil in it, also known as brain
medium chain triglycerides.
Yeah, so basically, fat is where brain is made of fat. So it has coconut oil in it, and it's good for your brain. It's good for your fat brain. Your fat brain. You have a fat brain, Trevor. So do I. I have a fat brain too. Everybody has a fat brain.
All right. Well, fat fuel coffee. As with everything, whether it's veganism or fat fuel coffee or the bulletproof stuff, do your homework. Do some research on it and see what jives with you. We definitely want to encourage everybody to follow their intuition and their what they respond to the most. My pick of the week is a very simple podcast alternative app. It's called Overcast. You can find it online at overcast.fm. It's available in, I think, pretty much all the app stores for iOS, Android, I think even Windows Phone maybe. And it's just a cool little podcast player that does things a little differently than the native podcast player built into the iOS ecosystem. What I like about it, my favorite feature of Overcast, is that it has what's called a smart speed feature. I think that's what it's called. I don't know how you'd say this. It's got a lot of different speed points, from half speed up to 2.5 speed. So instead of just the 1.5, 2, and half speed that the Apple one offers you, you can do 1.2, 1.4, 1.7, and it will actually analyze the podcast in real time and speed through silences and music, and then slow down for the dialogue heavy parts. So if you have a lot of podcasts in your queue and you're just like, I want to get through these podcasts, I want to listen to all of them. It's not about trying to complete some pointless quest. It's literally about just getting to the content, and you just don't have 45 hours a week to devote to that. This is a pretty cool solution because it will speed through the parts that you don't really need to listen to and slow down for the parts you want to listen to. So I listened to all of S-Town on that podcast app, and I was able to plow through that entire series within just a couple days because I was able to listen to the episodes in a third of the time that they would have normally taken, and still enjoy every last second. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Overcast, it's a free app, but there is a subscription option that removes ads and supports the developer. It's $10 a year or something ridiculously reasonable like that. So check it out, overcast.fm. And then we have a listener pick. This comes to us from longtime listener Lee Vang. We go ahead and say both names. Why not? Lee, I think actually took some headshot photos for you when he was in LA, right, AJ?
Yeah. Yes, he did.
They're great photos. So Lee sends in a clip from the Jimmy Fallon show, The Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon. It's a sort of short, excerpted interview with the actress Gal Gadot. I think I'm saying her name right, but she's the Israeli actress who plays Wonder Woman in the upcoming Wonder Woman movie. And in this little 5-6 minute clip, she talks about how she almost quit acting because of all the rejection. And she was like schlepping her family back and forth from Tel Aviv to LA. And she came so close to booking stuff so many times. And she just got to that point that so many of us get to where it's like, is this even worth it anymore? Like all these close calls and nothing ever pans out. And she was about to give up, and she just tells that story of being on these long flights and, you know, dealing with that. And then the eventual success story, talking to Zack Snyder about the Wonder Woman role. And it's pretty cool. I watched it before we started recording, and it's inspiring, man. It inspires you to hang in there a little bit longer. Keep playing. That vein of gold might be, you know, 6 inches from your pickaxe there. Just keep going.
Yeah, it almost always is.
Yeah. All right, well, so that is Fat Fuel, grass-fed MCT oil-infused butter for your coffee. Overcast, an app that you can listen to sort of smartly speed through some of your favorite podcasts, and a great interview with Gal Gadot on Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show. There's a link to the YouTube video of that on our website, and everything else on our website as well.
To be clear, Fat Fuel is the coffee's in there as well. It's everything.
Oh,
that's the whole. It's like all in one package. It's the coffee and the oils and the butter is all in one package, so you can just pour hot water on it.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoy those.
Alrighty, let's get out of here. Today's episode of Inside Acting was produced and co-hosted by me, AJ Meyer, and him, Trevor Algatt. Jen Levin is our production coordinator. Godali Grubrick is our marketing and web director. Deborah Smith is our community manager, and shout out to her for taking over for Grace Gordon, who's out of town as our director of public relations. Last night at our event, Fern Lim designed our logo. Trevor Algatt edited and mixed today's episode and composed our theme and interview music.
You can sign up for our weekly email dispatch and listen to all of our episodes at our website, insideacting.net. You can also find us on social media and wherever you get your podcasts. And if you've got a minute, please go ahead and leave us a nice, shiny 5-star review on iTunes if you feel it's justified. That kind of thing really helps us out a lot.
Special thanks to our sponsor, Camera Ready U, and thanks to you, our listeners. Visit our website to subscribe to our weekly newsletter, get links to everything we talked about in this episode, and if you'd like, support the continued production of the show with either a one-time financial contribution or an ongoing contribution as part of our membership. Visit insideacting.net/contribute to learn more.
And that does it for episode 278 of Inside Acting. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week. And in the meantime, just begin.